I wanted to answer some questions. I am committed in this climate to help us navigate through this unique time because, even with some of the restrictions lifting, even with for the individuals who are getting the uh, vaccine, even with those who are still thinking about it, even with those who are navigating through this time requires us to bound together, because to me the post-traumatic stress disorder, the PTSD after the climate, is something that is to be considered, right? And so um, just understanding what it means to navigate through this. So I'm committed to helping as many people as I can while I help myself. Now, I got to tell you, first law of nature is self-preservation. So the first thing I got to do is take care of myself. But I think that, thank you, Aziz. I think that we can support each other during these climates, right? Heart it up if you know what I'm talking about. And so I want to answer questions. I want to make sure that I'm lending whatever brilliance, whatever insight I have to your journey, right? And so many people staying connected to a tribe, having an agenda, having some accountability, having some cheerleaders, having a plan, it makes all the difference in the world, right? And so let's talk about that. You guys asked some questions. If you have some questions, type the question here as well. I'll take one question out of here. But I got so many. I love you too, sweetie. I got so many questions. I see people from, God, you guys are from everywhere. Spain, Ecuador, Brazil, Namibia. Oh my gosh, so many people. So you asked me some questions, right? You asked question Philippines. You guys asked me so many things. You guys, I know you guys already tell me, get on Clubhouse. You know I'm coming. You know I'm coming. And when I come, I want y'all to come running. I'm taking my time. I want to make sure I do it right. So yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So um, let me start answering some of your questions. I can't answer them all here, so we'll be doing this again. Yes. Hey, June. Hi, honey. I love you. My June Boone. I love you. You said, what advice would you give someone who's pivoting into a new career, right? Like you got to get into a new career. Raise your hand. Give me a hand raise if you're needing to make a change in your life and you're pivoting into a new career. So number one, I would say always have a long range goal. Like, where are you going? I read a book once and it said that people who are in survival mode, they think 1 month, 6 months, and 12 months down. And that actually didn't say survival mode. They said scarcity thinking. But people who are abundant thinkers, they're out 5 years and they're out 10 years. So if you're pivoting into a new career, let's talk about what do you want it to look like in 5 years. Let's begin with the end in mind. So what do you want it to look like? And now let's reverse engineer what you need to do for it to look that way in 5 years. Let's begin with the end in mind, as Stephen Covey says. Then you want to write a strategy. So many people don't have written strategies. Nima, my darling, love you. So what's your written strategy? You have to have a written strategy. I have a written strategy for everything that matters to me. There is a written strategy. So I want to make sure that you give yourself permission to have that. You guys can see my neighbors going by. Hey, neighbor. Hey, neighbor. Hey, kids. And so here's another question. How do I stay in my power in the middle of such change? Raise your hand if you're like, I need to control something in my life. Not that you're a control freak. Some of us are recovering control freaks, but I need to stay in control of my life. How do I do that? With so many things pivoting, right? So there's so many changes. Here's how you do that, Vet. Here's how you stay in control. Number one, I want you, if you have a pen and paper, I want you to draw 2 circles right now. Yep, I want you to draw 2 circles right now. I know you're typing. I know you're watching me. But listen, I don't want this to just be a moment for you. I want you to have some strategies. And we can get some strategies in like 5 minutes or less. So write 2 circles. Most people who feel like they're living out of control, it's because they're spending time in one of those circles versus the other. Now, if you've been on my campus before, you probably know where I'm going. In one circle, write COC. In the other circle, write COI. COC and COI. Your COC circle is where most people have been living. Most people have been living for the last 18 months. And that's your circle of concern. Your circle of concern, you have little to no influence over. You can't control it. You can't control how COVID took over the world. You can't control the politics at a certain level. You can control some part by voting, but you can't control what's happening in people's mindset around, race and people of color and you can't control that. Most people live 80% of their time, write that down, 80% of their time in their circle of concern, things they can't influence. When you live in your circle of concern, 80% or more, you feel powerless. Come on, type your name if you feel like, and yes, I did. Yes, I am the person who participated in the movie. When you feel like you're not in control, it's because you're living in your circle. Yes, Fatma, there you go. I know Fatma's going to do it. Fatma's on the campus. Fatma is actively transforming her life. Now, most people, right, feeling like that right now, rightfully in your circle of concern. So just raise your hand. Yeah, Yana, she's like, I'm in my circle of concern. So we want to move from your circle of concern, COC, to your COI, right? Who knows what COI is? Any of my students that have been on the campus, your COI is your circle of influence. Very few people live in their circle of influence, but those who do live in their circle of influence, they're the leaders. They're the ones that are driving their destiny. They're those of us who are creating our life. This right here, this view was a dream 16 years ago that I shared with a few people. And then it became my reality. How did it become my reality? This wasn't a hookup. It's because I lived 80% of my time in my circle of influence. I love it. I see you guys all writing it. I moved. I used to live in my circle of concern like everyone else. And I said, wait a minute, in my circle of concern, I have very little influence, but living in my circle of influence, I get to design my destiny. And so you want to, and I know I can't go through all of it right now. I'm going to teach you more. I am so committed because once your mind changes, your lifestyle has to follow. Come on, somebody here. When your mind changed, and the mind doesn't change one time, it's a constant evolution, right? Because you want to see, what does my next level look like? You've never arrived. COI, Mary. Yes, COI, circle of influence. Now, you should ask the question, Lisa, how do I get to my circle of influence? Now, you don't just jump from 20% to 80%. The average person spends 80% of their time in their circle of concern and 20% of their time in their circle of influence. Society just sets us up that way. You have to consciously, somebody type in there consciously, you have to consciously move. Now type in chat, I'm consciously moving into my circle of influence. Just write that. I know it's a lot, but heck, it's worth it. I'm consciously moving into my circle of influence. You're not born there. You're not, you may be in a household where they spend a lot of time there, but you got to navigate to get there. That has to be intentional. There's no accidental success. Yes, CB take. COI, circle of, I'm moving my mind. I'm constantly moving my mind. There you go. Come on. There you go, Ashun. There you go. Consciously moving. There you go. So, Ely, there you go. Nima, there you go. I'm consciously moving into my circle of influence. Be mindful about that. Isn't that delicious to write? Isn't that delicious to own? Isn't that delicious to state? And if someone says, what are you up to? Say, consciously moving my life to my circle of influence, consciously moving my mind to my circle of influence. Most people won't even know what you're talking about. Look at that. Paradise. Most people won't even know what you're talking about. But that's where you live. That's where you move to. Pack your bags and move to the next level. Circle of influence is your next level. All right, next question. Okay, I got so many questions from you guys. I wrote a couple down. How do I hold a vision and not go back to my old ways. All right, let's just bust yourself out right now. If you know you keep slingshotting back to your old behaviors, raise your hand. If you know, Lisa, how do I stay consistently in the person I'm becoming versus the person that I've been? How do I disrupt my old patterns, disrupt my old mindset? Even if I'm a game changer, because by the way, I focus on game changers and gladiators and movers and shakers. So that's who's here. So there are 364 people that are watching this. Thousands are going to watch the recording, but 365, 367, 300 of that, probably about 349 of y'all are game changers, movers and shakers, and gladiators. And so as that person, you want to know, how do I disrupt old patterns? How do I not slingshot back to old behaviors? Right? That's a huge question. And that's a powerful question, because if you don't, you'll keep having to relearn the same lesson. Somebody say amen if you know what I'm talking about. If you had to learn a few lessons, I see all the hearts. You have to learn a few lessons the same time, or you have to learn the same lesson multiple times. You want to know, how do I learn the lesson one time, and how do I get it and run forward to learn my next lesson? You'll never stop learning, but how do I stop slingshotting back? Do you realize how many times you go back and have to learn something again, and how that robs you of learning something new? Have you ever, I see the amens, Have you ever said, wait a minute, I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't still be here. I should be there. What happened? Lisa, what happened? Well, let me tell you what happened. What happened was, you learned a behavior, or you learned a mindset, but your lifestyle and your actions did not show that you learned that mindset, or they didn't continue to show that you learned that action. So you moonwalk. Remember Michael Jackson moonwalking? So you moonwalk back a bit, and you have to watch out, because when you're living a grand life, when you're living an amazing life, when you're the go-to girl, when you're the go-to guy, when you're the idea person, it doesn't look like you're moonwalking. Hello, someone. Hand raised. Tell me that's me. Say, Lisa, I know what you're talking about. Let me know I'm not by myself. We almost have 400 people now. So I know I got some like-minded unicorns out there. For me, I was slingshot back to an old behavior, but my old behavior was still someone else's desire. You hook your caboose, right? You hook your caboose to someone else's train and say, please don't let me be stalled even in this impressive place. So how do you make sure that you don't go back to an old behavior? What do? How do you hold a vision and not go back to your old ways? Number one, write this down. Right? Amira says, ooh, wee, right? Yes, I see you. Number one is, you get someone that's not afraid of you to hold you accountable to that you said you wanted. I'm going to say it again. You get someone who's not afraid. They're not your big fan. They're not sleeping in the same bed as you. They're not your mentee. So it's somebody who's running with you and like you. And you get them to hold you accountable to what you say you wanted. And this is how you say it. Here's what I want. Would you make sure that I don't sit that down? That's all you say. This is what I want. I want to lose these 5 pounds. I want to build that business. I want to get my coaching certificate. I want to start that business. I want to have my business launched in the next 8 months. Can you please make sure that I don't sit that down when it becomes inconveniencing to me? Because, oh, by the way, you play big enough, it's going to get inconveniencing. You play bold enough, it's going to become frustrating. You play large enough, it's going to make you tired. So don't be surprised by that. Number 2 is, create a plan that has a real timeline attached to it. Create a plan that has a real timeline attached to it, and make the timeline realistic. Be kind to yourself. In 30 days, I'm going to have my business plan done. Okay, well, if you think you can have it done in 30 days, then give yourself 45 days. In 6 months, I'm going to have all my sales together. Well, if you say 6 months, then give yourself 7 months. Be kind to yourself. Set realistic goals and put a real date on the calendar. If the date doesn't exist on the calendar when you're going to get something done by, then it's not getting done. Someday or one day don't exist. A real date on the calendar. That's number 2. Number 3 is have bi-weekly or monthly check-ins with your progress. Don't have your head down so much that you don't know how much progress you've made or how much progress you haven't made. And that's number 3 is have real check-ins, assessments on your progress. Where am I in proximity to where I say I was going to be? And don't keep it all a secret. Work with someone, even if they don't have the same goal as you. All right. So listen, I'm real committed to helping you navigate to the next level. I'm committed to that. I love it. Like I literally am. And I don't have like some people compared to my life. Some people are like, look, their lives are way beyond mine. But for me, this is amazing. And it happened by having moments like this, learning from other people and doing it step by step by step.
If you want another awesome video in our Black Excellence series, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.